Hey guys, what's up and welcome to another episode of the Show. So today is another first for the podcast. I have my first guest from MCA. I'm really excited to discuss a lot of things with him. He's a very opinionated, very loud man in social media. Just type out his name and you'll see a bunch of articles as well. Very beautiful ones actually. I love his writing. But my guest is the Division Chief of MCA Kuantan. He's actively involved in grassroots engagements and local community service. His strong focus is on addressing the concerns of Kuantan residents, and he has worked closely with community leaders, NGOs and local stakeholders on issues ranging from public welfare to constituency development. He's known for his pragmatic approach to politics, emphasizing dialogue, service and practical solutions to improve the daily lives of the people he represents. Please welcome Mr. Ti Lian Ker. How are you, sir?
Thank you, Vinod. Thank you.
Thank you for coming on the podcast. So we, of course, have to discuss the cabinet reshuffle and MCA's position now. Mm-hmm. So what is your opinion in the aftermath of the reshuffle? What is the position of MCA now?
Like I say, the cabinet reshuffle is more about sustaining control, correcting the negative vibes, putting a stop to that. It's more about projecting, bringing in younger face to attract new voters. It's all about votes. And the accountability is not really there. Unpopular ministers who failed, is not there. It's vibes. And I think it's very much geared towards the next election. So, unless you want to go into specifics, but this is not about moving forward, making the right, correct political decisions, putting in the right personalities in the right portfolios.
Okay.
And about reform, about aggressively bringing reform. I think it's not there yet. Okay. It's more about consolidation of power. It's all aftermath of Sabah. It's more about correcting perception and repackage perception. So what does the appointments tell you as an MCA senior leader about your party's role in the government today? I think we don't focus on MCA too much, because I think MCA and MIC is another issue altogether. That is all about the institution of Barisan Nasional, the politics of Barisan Nasional, what it stands for. What has been the political convention of Barisan Nasional about management of communities. People don't like to talk about race, but this whole country is wrapped up in race, racial sentiment, because we basically fail in uniting the people, especially the emergence of formation of Malaysia. I think the spirit is gone. Okay. Tunku Abdul Rahman as a Bapa Merdeka, nobody mentions him anymore. So I am at a transition of post-independence, the racial rights, May 13, I was in 10-1, post-May 13, Mahathirism, authoritarian, and then political Islam in universities, and reform, and today deform. So I have gone through the whole generation. That's why I have so many things to share. I like political conversations. I am not a political activist, so I don't take up issues and go on. Okay. I like to educate. I like to trigger discussion, and I like to prick bubbles. So because I think Malaysia is such a beautiful country, we need more genuine politicians who speaks the truth, who say things based on facts and statistics, who says things from the heart. I think we are lacking. Today is more about political play, and this is a result of media. And you, as podcast, we are contributing. Are part of the media. So we need to correct all this ecosystem for the sake of the next generation.
But interesting you say that, because you, in an article recently, a few weeks ago, you did this before the cabinet reshuffle. You suggested that Dato Sri Dr. Syamsul Anwar Nasarah, as part of the new cabinet, and your reason was because he sort of represents the old way of Malay politics. So I ask you now, what's the difference between the old way and the new way of Malay politics?
If you really, I studied sejarah Islam, kebudayaan, kesusastraan Melayu and all that. If you look at the Malays, the old Malays and the new Malays, they are entirely different.
Okay.
And if you look at UMNO today and UMNO before, also entirely different. UMNO before was about teachers, people who genuinely believes in a certain cause, in basic values, thinks of the welfare and empathic, compassionate. But today is, you can see, it's not only UMNO, all the politicians, they are overwhelmed with greed for with power, scandals, corruption, money, and etc. So I think something is wrong. We need to bring back the old ways. And I think Samsu, as a background, a teacher, old Malay school, to me it's about the value. It's not about Samsu. It's not him as a person. And I think that
it's about the values he carries.
The values he carries. We need more people who are more down to earth. They avoid making sensational statements. They don't make political rhetorics to capture their right wing or left wing. So I think this is where we need the middle ground. We need the moderates. We need the honest, consensus, on the ground, down to earth politicians. And to me, out of so many politicians, Samsu in the cabinet, Samsu represents that old school.
Okay. Now, speaking of which, he is from UMNO, right? He's from UMNO. And I just wanted to get your viewpoint again. Has UMNO set aside the welfare of MCA in space of its own rebirth?
I think UMNO is not rebirthing. UMNO is clinging onto power. They need to survive on power. That is their bloodline. Their whole system, political ecosystem, is about patronage for so many years, from Mahathir, Anwar Ibrahim, onwards. When I think it's when Musa Hitam was removed, then Tunku Razali was outcast. I think it was all about controlling the party. They can even remove the whole UMNO Lama into UMNO Baru.
UMNO Baru, yes.
They can transform. They can just do that. That is where how powerful they were then. And that time UMNO they have 100 over member of parliaments. They can rule with or without MCA and MIC. So it was a totally different time than now. Now only 10 of DAP's member of parliament out of 40, they just rock the boat a bit. I think the Prime Minister of PMX will come and say, what do they want? And publicly, he may posture, I don't care who you are, but privately, he will still buy them. So that is the difference. And that's where I say today, DAP, not that I'm bitching DAP. DAP has a very important role because they are the dominant party in the government. In the past, UMNO is not only dominant, they are overwhelmingly dominant, such that they can just cast you aside.
Of course.
They have so many other parties. So now PMX is in that position. He is going back to the old politics. He of UMNO. He's having the Mahathir playbook with a few new chapters of his own. And I think PMX will succeed as the next Prime Minister. Because he knows the game. He has been around for so long. But then again, he may have forgotten. He don't talk like a Renaissance man anymore. He don't talk about reformation anymore. In the past, when we were in Barisan Nasional, we also aspire for change. But we were talking about transformation. We don't talk about reformation.
What is the difference?
Transformation, we go as and when we can. When it is pragmatic, when it is acceptable, when you don't rock the boat, you just guide the flow towards the right direction. And I think that is more suitable today. You talk about reformasi, many people are saying reformati, because it's no longer reform, there's no reformation. The whole country is in a deformation stage. We are deformed. Because all the promises are forgotten. All the promises are just set aside. Why? Because PKR and DAP do not have that political ecosystem of accountability.
And before we go to that, and I would like to touch more on that part as well. Of course, for voters, it's always been MCA versus DAP, right? There's always been comparisons between the two parties.
I would like to correct that statement. It's always DAP against MCA.
Okay, so
because
DAP
MCA was so comfortable with their own ecosystem, their outreach, their infrastructure, organization. Every corner when there is Chinese or new villages, there is MCA members and MCA branches.
And to 2004, you had 15 parliamentary seats at one point. Till today, you have 2 seats. So what, despite your extensive reach in the grassroots, what was the reason for this decline?
Because we are not a populist party. And then if you look at MCA, I am not the typical MCA. I'm woker. I'm not easily silenced.
Yeah.
And I speak out what has to be said, whether it's against the ruling government or opposition. So, but basically, MCA are a very complacent party. They work within that infrastructure of Chinese guilds and association, Chinese organization, Chinese chambers, etc. So basically, MCA leaders are accountable to their branches, the branch divisional level, etc. If you go to many areas, you look for a DAP division, you don't know who they are. So MCA has local faces, and that local faces has been around for a long time. And in politics, there is political revenge. So every time there is a party election, there will be fractions, breakaway fractions. So that accumulates. So MCA was carrying that sort of baggage. And our leaders are not quick or fast enough to adjust to that. They will still retain that comfort zone of managing from within. And like I said, when we say we are accountable, is that when we are having a position, minister or deputy minister, we have to go to the ground, because if not, our absence will be converted into votes against us during the party election. The AP, they don't have that outreach. They are social media outreach. They are populist. They have the optics. But on the ground, you look for a DAP leader, you don't get them. You look for your member of parliament, they're hardly there. They'll ask you, whoever that's servicing in the office, they will say, hey, you go and look for MCA. Because MCA is known for their service. MCA is known for their local government representative, their new village head, etc. But DAP today, they have pointed so many. You just name me a few names.
So they're more top-heavy, as you said.
Yeah, not top-heavy. They are top-heavy because they are a socialist party. 25 those days. Now it's 30, I believe. So you are all 25. As long as you pass the mark of 25, you are always there. And as long as from within the 25, you control half of it, you control the party. It's like Communist Party of China. 2,000 delegates control how many? Hundreds of millions of people. So it is totally different. So they can say anything. Today, they can even consider using PAS as their logo to stand at one stage. So that is how radical. And they can embrace Mahathir after decades of throwing negative vibes and demonizing Mahathir, to the extent of their former chairman, Chen Manghin, objected. Because Chen Manghin, how many years we have been demonizing Mahathir, suddenly we say we are going to bring him back as a second time prime minister. So, but they can do that. So they are not. They can just overnight. They can just change their mask and face. That cannot happen in MCA
because of your grassroots.
Because of our grassroots, they will remember what you say. You promised something to that, like Nga Koming. He promised 999 years of leasehold for the Chinese New Year. Today he's the minister of the New Village Minister. He didn't even have a paper. He didn't even engage the state government. Local government election, again, Nga Koming. If they say the Malays are sensitive, you should know the Malays are sensitive for many years. So now is how to buy in the Malays to tell them this is not about race. This is about local election, accountability, and fighting corruption at the lowest level of the government. The local government is very corrupted, because it's directly with the traders, licensing, etc. But you cannot prove. The problem about corruption is you hear, but you cannot prove. So, and then ultimately many people just succumb to that practice of corruption, bribe and buy in.
Now, you were quoted in Sinar Harian. In an article, you said Anthony mesti berhati-hati dengan kata-katanya. Masyarakat Cina bukan menunggu untuk mendengar hinaan terhadap MCA. Mereka menunggu untuk melihat DAP benar-benar berfungsi lebih baik daripada MCA. Sayangnya, di bawah kepimpinan Anthony Loke, apa yang mereka dapat hanyalah MCA 2.0 dengan retorik kosong. Is this your acceptance that MCA failed because of empty rhetoric?
No. MCA basically they have no political rhetorics. In the past, if you are too rhetoric or if you are too much of a political activist, you'll be removed because they want good guys. They want people who blend in, work quietly. Because this is our political ecosystem. This is where our votes come from, and we only need about 30 to 40% Chinese votes to retain our seats. Basically, MCA has never had the popular Chinese support because a lot of Chinese have been indoctrinated. Either they are leftist, socialist, or mati-mati anti-MCA. They are die-hard blue blood DAP supporters. So I always say the Chinese swing votes are the one that we capture. Out of the 30% core votes we have, 20% core votes we have from our members, we need another 10 or 20 swing votes. These are businessmen, people who are observing, who are critical of the political development and policies. These people used to be fair, rational. But with the emergence of the social media and a lot of money pumping in, a lot of interest from the West, from the East, on the social media, there are many people have been radicalized, propaganda indoctrinated. So you can see all these. The media was so powerful, it can bring some regimes in Arab. And the media actually contributed largely to the downfall of Barisan Nasional today. And today
Wasn't
you can
it 1
see,
MDB?
1 MDB is the hype of it. It comes to the peak. It's like they started with environmental issues. Then they hype it up to Rasuah. But before that, they start was democracy. But democracy doesn't work with the Malays because they are more feudal, So it's from environment, then they move accountability, then they move to corruption, then they move to asalkan bukan UMNO. So from ubah, they talk about ini kali lah, and ubah, then they say asalkan bukan UMNO, then ini kali lah. It's all a progression. So it's all very calculated. So I'm saying that people have been hyped up. They get very emotional. And even that time, you talk about Lynas. As long as you try to say something scientific or fair, you will be branded. I became very unpopular because I tried to explain what Lynas is all about.
This is the rare earth project.
This is a rare issue. The whole of quantum were radicalized. And then many people were talking about Lynas. Vuzia was talking about Lynas like Fukushima, which is about nuclear. This is radioactive. Yeah. So, but people, even doctors, they were radicalized into. So today nobody wants to talk about it because if you talk about it, it's like you're telling them they have been cheated, they have been scammed. So scammers succeeded because victims hardly wants to come out and say they have been scammed, unless it's out of frustration.
Now, but one of the criticisms against MCA in the past has...
I haven't answered your question on Anthony Loke. Why I say that? Because basically, if you look at Anthony Loke's background, he graduated from UKM. He works in the party. He is basically a party man. He's basically his rice bowl is party. So he knows political ecosystem very well. So he is playing politics, and he is actually just accommodating and then going for low-lying fruits. And the only time he is vocal when he's back MCA. If you look at his statements, that is the only time. Then I'm reminding him, he is doing exactly what I disapproved of for the past. I keep on talking about politicians. We need to have a direction. We need to have some political grounding and philosophy. We need to have our values and our perjuangan to let the people feel us. But you see, Anthony Loke will buy up to any Malay politicians. Those days, he will buy up Nick Aziz. He will buy up. He will defend the hudud, and he said, "Asalkan you don't steal, you don't rob, you don't no fear of hudud." So these are all political rhetoric. So Loke has not been consistent in his politics. And today, he transformed the DAP away from Lim Kik Siang and Lim Guan Eng, which is more woker, more English educated political democracy, into management. Going back into comfort zone, stay away from issues, trying to do things in low key. The only time he's high key is when he attacked MCA.
But again, I mean, yes, you can say that. But one of the biggest criticisms towards MCA in the past has been that they were very submissive to UMNO. Do you agree with this? And perhaps do you regret this?
Why MCA? Every party is submissive to UMNO. But MCA carries the check and balance. Today, are you saying that DAP is not submissive to the Prime Minister?
Of course they are. They are submissive.
When you are in the cabinet, you will be perceived to be submissive because you.
Sorry, let me correct it. After Sabah, they are not submissive. They suddenly become very vocal.
Yes, after Sabah, because it's politics. You see, we are going to have another one. They will quit the cabinet. They said 6 months for the UEC. 6 months down the line, if they quit, is the impending election is coming. So just to get back the votes or consolidate their seats, then they'll go back again to reorganize themselves. So it's like what happened to Sabah. So basically, to me, that's a scam. That is cheating the people. That's why I call out the bluff. And I think we need to be more independent. I'm MCA, but if I have to criticize MCA, I criticize. If you look into the hands up my Dewan Negeri speech, I attack the government to the extent that I've been given names Ustaz T because I attack. I did not attack. I questioned some of the religious, not their rukun, but the religious logic of things. I questioned over abuse of nationalism. I did all that. So I think we can do it. It's just that many people chose not to do it. And Anthony Loke, you can see, he chose not to do it. So that's why I'm saying he is MCA 2.0.
Yes, he is. Okay. Now, but again, it seems like on the 22nd of September 2022, you asked Malaysians to be forgiving to the health condition of the incarcerated former Prime Minister, Dato Sri Najib Razak. Don't you think such rhetoric from you would alienate Chinese votes from MCA as being seen again?
The Chinese votes have been radicalized. 9 out of 10 is not for us. So,
is there any chance of getting back these votes?
No, I'm not talking about votes. I always say I'm a political worker. I survived in politics after 2008 when I was chantas by my own party. It dropped me because despite the fact that I got the highest winning majority in the state election of Pahang. I survived since 2008 until now without standing in any election, general election. So I'm not into votes. For me, it's about what is right, what is correct. We need to be politically correct. And I think the way, because that time, they were indoctrinating people to hate Najib, actually hate Rosmah. So that, to me, it's all hate. I'm saying that enough of hate politics. Here, this man has done a lot for the country. He has done a lot for the common good of people. And he dares to, like when DAP, no education minister dare to do away with the Education Act to close vernacular school. He do it away. He withstand political pressure and radicalism. I'm saying that if he had made, says we ampun him to and then wash away his sin, whitewash him, the way PMX has been done. I'm just saying, be more forgiving and empathic. He is an old man. They were saying that, so much money is spent on his comfort. And I think that is just indoctrination of, this guy has been given special due. He's a former Prime Minister.
Yeah.
He deserves some rights as a former Prime Minister. So I'm talking about we have to be softer. Maafan is about Malay culture. Malay culture, during Raya, they minta maaf. Maafan is forgiving, and forgiveness is part of our culture, Chinese and Indian culture. It's just that When we are overwhelmed, over-consumed with hate, we forgot about the past, the part about forgiveness.
Again, you speak of that, but then YB Dato Sri V. Kasyong said that MCA would leave BN if UMNO works with DAP. So is this a sentiment of the one that you shared, that we should not hate, we should be forgiving, shared by the party?
It's totally different altogether. That is about treatment of a former prime minister who has done wrong, and basically the system also, if he asks whether how wrong is it, actually not only him, the whole system needs to be questioned.
Correct.
Because it involves bankers, involves other ministers, involves financials, involves bank governor.
It's a lot of people, stakeholders,
people, lawyers as well. There's a lot of stake. So I didn't want to go into that because that is a very complicated, multi-layered issue. But basically, when I'm talking about compassion, empathy, and forgiveness, not to a person, but humanity as such in general. Because I don't want hatred. Hate culture is not what I'm going for. So back to what Kasyong is saying, Kasyong is posturing. He's posturing. I never said get out of Barisan Nasional. I say get out of Madani government, yes. If you are so unhappy with their policies, if you don't agree, if the people on the ground have been rumbling and frustrated, this is the time for you to draw a line. We continue to support the government because that is our undertaking.
Yes.
We are not going to, but we are not going to be part of the government. That is all I'm saying.
But how is it, sir? How can you say that don't be part of the government but support the government? How does that work?
We are not in the cabinet. All you do is you don't be part of the government, you don't get their allocation. So you sacrifice the allocation, but you are making a very strong statement. A lot of your policies are not very kind to the people. A lot of your policies are actually arousing. I got calls middle of the night from businessmen who used to be strong DAP supporters. Hey, Dato Sri, you must come out and say this, say that. But I tell them I got no platform. I'm just another ordinary person, except that I'm the past deputy minister. Maybe I still capture the media. Maybe a lot of media are still friendly. They like what I say. They still carry my news. Beyond that, I'm just a loudspeaker. So, but you can see the ground is very, very unhappy. The policy is no longer fair. And everybody is nostalgic of Bosco talking about during Najib's time. But that is very real on the ground. And I think that is something has been manifested in Sabah. So when I say that, people say, oh, I am bitter. I'm not bitter. I can live without being a minister. I can live without standing for general election. I don't aspire. If I am wanted, I will do it as a service. But I'm not going to sell my principle or say things to please Bodek or to suck up to some bosses. I got no boss. That's why I'm independent and I dare to say what is right.
That's true. You are a very vocal man and I love your article. So keep that.
Thank you. You're not the only one. Many people privately, they whisper. At least you say it publicly. Many people, they will text me, they will share, go, continue. And then, but I say, I am only one person. I'm not an institution. In Malaysian politics, you need party.
Yes.
And you need bosses. I think that's the reality.
Now, I want to go back to that article that you wrote recently. Very beautiful article, by the way. I'll be sharing the link to it. Please read it. It's a very beautiful article. He doesn't really make any statements, but he does ask questions. Very perfectly written. And I think I brought it up yesterday when I interviewed Professor James Chin as well. We were discussing about the article. So you end the article by saying, questioning whether is it time to leave?
Yes.
Should MCA leave BN?
No, I'm saying that the whole diaspora of politics and party has been changed. Today, we no longer have susunan, we no longer have order, we no longer have convention, we no longer have good practices, we no longer follow any good practices. Today, all the prime minister and present prime minister are from UMNO. And you cannot write off. Many people are whispering, PMX is posturing or is navigating to go back to UMNO. It's not impossible.
Yeah.
Mahathir tries to do that with Sheraton Move. He buys in PAS, he buys in UMNO, he buys in Azmin Ali, he buys in everywhere. And he wants to a reunification of UMNO, perpaduan Melayu yang jitu. So I think the Malaysian politics, the reality is Malay is the card You hold the Malay sentiment, you can unite Malay. Today you are a hero and you will remain a hero. That was, I think PMX, if he can leave behind a legacy, he can unite the Malays and go back to the politics of the past. It's a legacy for him. Mahathir failed to unite the Malays. PMX managed to, both of them are nemesis in politics. And the whole country has been destroyed by these two personalities. It's all about their politics. We are so caught up with their politics. I'll be more than happy if all these past politicians which I have lived with for umpteen years, for decades, they just live and give a new crops, a new set of players and play a new game. Why am I saying that? Today PKR is not relevant. Today UMNO is not relevant. UMNO is depending on DAP to be relevant. PKR used to start depending on Hindraf. Then later they capture the Chinese and the moderate Malays. Today these people there is a leakage. The Indians have left them. The Chinese are moving away. The Malays still want a Malay-centric party. So if I am a politician, BMX, I will charter what Mahathir did. Chartered the return of the supremacy of the Malays. A unification of them. Because today, Malays, if you go and talk to even the educated Malays, old, young, across the board, many of them are heartache when they see the Malays are splintered into many parties. They say it out loud, but they don't say it out in the media, but they say it to me. I can feel that their heart is bleeding. They don't like to see what's happening. That's why they don't know. They are so frustrated that they channel their anger on DAP, which is not very right also. I think DAP has also changed because to MCA 2.0. They no longer promise to do away with Bumiputra, although it's still in their declaration. DAP don't touch on anything that is sensitive to Malays.
Yeah, they don't.
So even local government election, which is something nothing across the board, it has nothing to do with race. Lim Kek Siang and Cameron said we have to respect the Malay sentiment. Malay sentiment has been respected, overly respected, and sometimes we are using Malay sentiment as an excuse for not moving forward or for not progressing. We cannot remain stagnant. We cannot endorse perpetual abuses of the national money just in the name of Malays. That is something which I'm not for. That's why I'm saying the biarlah that convention Melayu be the last convention. I'm not saying it against the Malay having a convention. I'm saying it, let this convention be successful and the Malays that needs help rightfully gets the help that they need. And I'm for helping Malays, helping Kadazans, helping the Indians, helping for the Chinese. That's why the Indians got your
Hindu.
No, your
My party.
No, the Indians got help during Najib's time. Under the
Mitra.
Mitra.
It was called Sadiq then.
No, not Sadiq. It's during Najib's time. Mitra. So you see, every now and then when we help certain community, it's because it's the need of that particular community. It's not about race. And that is how Barisan Nasional manage. But now today we don't talk about race. But everything there is a silent cloth of racism.
Definitely.
About religion. And then we say, no more 3Rs. Basically, that is again another unhealthy development. Actually, you are stopping anybody from having a conversation, a proper conversation, proper discussion, proper meeting of minds to sort out the race-religious issues that need to be sorted out.
Now, interesting that we talk about this because PAS has come up with a statement basically taking a very soft approach when it comes to addressing YB Dato Sri Vikas Yong's statements in the MCA AGM, recent MCA AGM. He's almost inviting MCA over to have discussions. So, in your opinion, should MCA consider this?
I wrote an article and tell how PAS should change to win the non-Malay votes, Sabah, Sarawak, Indian and Chinese vote. I'm not saying doing it to support PAS or wanting PAS to come into power. Today, part of the hope is we hope PAS to be transformed into a more moderate, open, because PAS is also greedy for power. If they want to be in the government. It's just like DAP. They were so greedy for power, they can even sell themselves out to embrace UMNO, which they have demonized for so many years.
Yeah.
It's all about power. So I'm saying, don't trust any party, don't trust any politicians. They will sell you out.
Then who do we trust, sir? Come on.
Basically, we need to trust our own conscience. We need to build up that civil movement. We need to have more podcasts who are non-partisan, who are issue-centric. We used to talk about that, but we are not anymore. Today, we are talking about who is in power. It's all about identity politics. Because many people have already taken side. Either you're pro-DAP, against DAP, or you're pro-PAS. So, who do we look for? We look for Mahathir. He goes back to his old ways. He tries to bring back all the Malays together. In fact, I heard about Mahathir in the first year itself, after 2018, they were talking about, after a year or so, they were talking about February, something big will happen. Mahathir has been lobbying, has been moving, has been making his movement, approaching PAS, UMNO, Azmin, etc. So, similarly today, you cannot write off PMX is doing the same thing. So what I'm saying is, if we have put our hope on Mahathir once, a second time, we put our hope on PMX when he was Deputy Prime Minister, and today as a Prime Minister. And if all these have failed, who else do we look for? We look for DAP. They also totally sell out, So who do we look for? We hope PAS can transform because they want power. So this is our bet. You change, not we change. We are not going to change. You change. Let us see. By changing, we're actually changing the whole Malay political ecosystem. Because PAS radicalized Malays. DAP radicalized Chinese. Today, the Chinese are less radical. They no longer demand. They used to be very demanding. If you look back, apa Cina mau? Semua Cina mau that time. But now, no more apa Cina mau. So we can see, if we can get DAP to change because they want power, we can also get PAS to change because of power. And even within PAS, they have multi-layer. They have Hadi, there's Tuan Ibrahim Tuan Man, who is more open-minded and liberal. They have Takyuddin Hasan. He used to be my president. I was his Secretary General. But we are not buddies because we have political differences, etc. But I'm saying they are human.
But what you're talking about now, sir, is that you sound as if you are saying that ethnically based parties or ethnically based politics is bad, and we should more to a more inclusive, broad-based approach. Right? That sounds like what you're saying. Then where does MCA fit in all this, which is based on, it is a racial-based party, which you are part of, which you are a very senior leader in. So what's the future then?
You must first real politics and idealism. Ideally, I was brought up, I don't want a race-based party. But as I grew up, I realized that the whole political ecosystem, the whole constitution is colored. So the whole political management, even we change the prime minister, the bureaucrats are still very colored. So how do we go from here? Are you saying that the Chinese and the Indians don't talk about race, and the Malays continue to talk about race? Is that healthy?
No.
Then now people are talking about Sabah Sarawak, but nobody is talking about the Indians and the Chinese. So MCA and MIC is not relevant. They can just close shop. But other Chinese and Indians going to have a voice. Today the Chinese are so divided. People say the Chinese are united. The Chinese are united. 9 out of 10 of them wanted a change in government, ubah. But they don't know what they are getting into. They're getting from a devil to the deep blue sea, or from the deep blue sea to the devil. So today, the Chinese, many of them no longer have political philosophy, no political direction. Why are they joining PAS? Is it because they believe in PAS, or because PAS opportunity is there? Some have become senators, some appointed for posts, local government, because PAS is very powerful today. They are in several states, some business deals, etc. Why are these Chinese joining PAS? I cannot comprehend. So is there a bait? So I'm saying that Chinese is about opportunism now. It's no longer about they can join PAS, they join Bersatu. Is that about wanting to do something right for your community? They join Amanah. They join any other party. If as long as it's all about who they know, which Malay they know, which link cable they know. It's all about kowtow. It's all about. And I'm not for kowtow culture. And I think that is one of the downfall of Chinese as a race. They kowtow to who is in power and where the money is. But when you talk about rhetorics, they are very good. You go to Kopitiam when they drink, they are number one. That's why MCA becomes the punching bag, because they use MCA to give an optic that they are righteous, but deep down inside they are not righteous.
Why do you say that? That's a big
because
allegation.
Chinese DNA is about survival. Many heroes die a hard death. So that is the kind of literature you are reading. So no Chinese wants to be a hero. But the English educated sometimes tends to be very woker because we are brought up differently. We are taught to be woker, call a spade a spade. But the Chinese, you don't call a spade a spade. You have to butter up each other. It's a totally different culture. And then Chinese are very influenced by the tribes. The tribe culture rules in many of the Chinese businessmen, politics, culture. That's why you look at the Oriental countries, Japan, Korea, the tribes plays a very important role because the tribe they are not merciful. They can be very, very. So that is their more of. It's a very strong influence. I don't want to go deep into that because if I say it, I'll be saying things which are very general, and many people will disagree with me and hate. Social media will become your podcast will be very popular. Suddenly people will hit me, and then I may be quoted out of context.
No, but okay. So let's bring it back to this. If we look at what happened post Sabah, 8-0 loss to DAP, right? And DAP now is frantic. They are saying everything. They are
okay. Just before you go there, I want to answer your
please,
MCA and MIC. The Chinese and the Indians, why are they so interested to get rid of MCA and MIC? To them, it's an eyesore. They thought so by getting rid of MCA and MIC, the race factor won't come in. Not knowing that by getting rid of MCA and MIC, ended up you were not going to have mitra, you are not going to have any voice, you got no under the government agenda line how you cannot bring up the Chinese and the Indians issues anymore. Because the Chinese and Indians don't exist. So it's like assimilation, which is not what the Chinese and Indians want in Malaysia. That happened in Philippines, Indonesia, in Thailand. But the Chinese and Indians want to have some identity. That's why in our constitution, we provide for that. Actually, we guarantee the right of all this because we still value some of the values that are in us. We want to be Malaysian, but we want to have some good values that comes from our tradition.
So you're saying that without MIC, without MCA now in the cabinet, the rights of these two respective communities, Indian Chinese, is not properly represented?
Is DAP going to come out and say, I speak for the Chinese, I speak for the Indians? In the past, if the Prime Minister chairs the cabinet, after all agenda is Malay agenda because government agenda is Malay agenda. Malay agenda is national agenda. Comes to a line, Sami Velu, apa macam mana orang India? Lin Yong Sik. So you have that allocation. By then also it's ending already. But at least you got the chance to bring in. So that's why you have to pick. And then apa Cina mau? Every Prime Minister or Menteri Besar comes in, they will want to hear out what does the Indians and the Chinese want. So who is representing? They has a wish list. That wish list will be given a certain percentage. But DAP will be bitching about the half or the 3/4 empty glass without telling about the 1/4. But today we can't even have 1/4. They don't even, under vernacular schools allocation, they don't even want to spell it out. But all this finally is just like Ngakoming. That ministry is supposed to be ministry in charge of new villages. Today our funds, what do we see? New village reformation. They just says new village UNESCO, which antagonize the Malay. What for? Why you go and get a name? Menang sorak gadai kampung. New village needs development, infrastructure. The tribes culture is drug culture is going into, is affecting the life of the Chinese community. Nobody want to talk about it. Then you talk about BMW toilet. Then you talk about iKiosks. iKiosks, you go every corner. I'm a state assemblyman in Indra Makota for 2 terms and 1 term in Toronto. Those areas which are flooded, not wanted, nobody goes there. We have 20-30 iKiosks there. I go there a few times. There are signboards, but it's not operating. You have solar and solar electricity. It's all useless. So. And this should come, there's many ministry which can do this, the Malay ministry, taking charge of the Malay traders, etc. It's not about race, but you are new village minister. You are local government.
You should do it properly,
something
lah.
right
Yeah.
for the people. Today, what we really need is a local government election, because local government is where a lot of small traders are bullied into bribing their way through. But we have no proof, but we know it's happening. So you as a minister, educate the Malays who objected. This is not about Malay, Chinese and Indian. This is about amanah. Amanah is about Islam. You know, talk about it. You also sometimes you will just quote Islamic words, etc., just for politics. But you say it for your work. That is what I'm saying. It's like in Kota Baru, when that girl or what was summoned for wearing
Shorts.
He said, settle. Settle, somebody pay the summon, not settle, withdraw the summon, because technically you must not concede that it is a wrong. It is not, there is no moral policing in our constitution. So as a minister, you must correct it. That's why I asked, was the summon settled, or was the summon withdrawn or paid? Well, I got no answer, and nobody take it up from there. That is where we lack the intelligence to differentiate, and that is why Malaysian politics will continue to rot until we cultivate political correctness. We cultivate more political workers like me. Even I don't stand. My party don't give me any position to stand. My party want me out because they don't want me to talk a lot. I'm out. It's okay. I still talk.
Are you out of MCA now?
I'm still a division chairman,
Yeah, exactly.
but I'm no
What do you mean?
longer. I'm not in the menu list for
I
the
see.
top leadership.
Okay.
Because Kasiam don't like me to talk a lot.
But keep doing what you do, sir. I love your articles. But okay, now that we are looking at if we look at the Chinese votes, and I think before this podcast started, so we had a very casual conversation about that. After Sabah, the potential for you can see the frustration among the Chinese voters is already very evident. Right, and I know even now when I talk to a lot of people on this side of our country, they are also frustrated with things like e-invoicing and all these regulations that have come up. Is this the right time for MCA to win back a portion of the frustrated Chinese votes?
MCA is winning back, but we are not going to win enough to dethrone DAP.
Of course, it's a progression.
That's why I say we start from ground zero. That's why I keep on saying MCA must start from ground zero. Forget about your past allegiance. No, don't talk about Barisan Nasional. Don't talk about leaving Barisan Nasional. If you think that Barisan Nasional, you have been played out, no longer called for consensus, because Barisan Nasional is about consensus. If you are not even consulted, if there's no meeting, you must dare to protest. When you are pinched, you must cry out loud. You don't know when you're pinched, you keep quiet, and then you start bitching behind. I think we need to be more forthright. We need to be more upright. Then people look at you, they can see that you have dignity, you have integrity. And that is what I'm fighting for. It's not about, if Barisan Nasional no longer serve our purpose, call it out. It's not that we are abandoning Barisan Nasional. We are not leaving Barisan Nasional. But Barisan Nasional today, the leadership today did not uphold the Barisan Nasional culture, the values, and the spirit of Barisan Nasional. That is respect. Rule of the majority with respect for the minority. It's not happening now. So, forget, you dissolve Barisan Nasional. Set a new one. Like I said, I wrote another article. Look for Sabah. Look for Sarawak. Align to some Sarawak parties, Sabah party. Because Sabah Sarawak today is talking about Malaysia. We want to revisit Malaysia. We don't want to revisit Ketuanan Melayu. Supremacy of the Malays. And I said, in the 90s, it's about Ketuhanan Melayu. Anybody talk about, he quote the Quran, he is right, even though we know he is ugly. As long as he camouflage. So, it's political Islam. It's not about Islam. It's a disservice to the religion. The religion is scientific, good, progressive. But these people are abusing the religion. And that is where I always call it out loud. But when I talk about it, people are sensitive. You are non-Muslim. Don't talk about Islam. I'm not talking about Islam's rukun, Islam, etc. I'm talking about Islam in relation to politics. How it has been abused, how it has been used, manipulated. That's where I'm coming from. And furthermore, my neighbor is Muslims. I could have partners, Muslim partner. I'm also concerned for my neighbor. I have a right to ask questions. If my asking question itself is forbidden, is 3R, then it's wrong. My grandchildren are Muslims. I have a right to talk or to ask, hey, what is this correct? Is this a correct Muslim practice? But today, if you are non-Muslim, you cannot talk. Then you don't bring kafir into our legal system. Kafir is not part of our legal system.
But all of this that you're saying, there is a rise in race and religious sentiments in our country now, right? Who do you point the finger to?
It's basically politicians. It's not only about PAS. PAS was trying, they started well. They want to bring in more Islamic values into the system, good values. Later, UMNO tries to outdo them. So and in the process of fighting, they go for radical, because only by being radical you can capture. It's like DAP. They capture the Chinese by being radical, by making promises. So at one stage, Hadi even talk about dissolving the federal constitution and replace with Quran. It sounds very good. I was a student then. I listened. It's not. This as a law student, it's not right. That is two different worlds. We are dealing with humans. You talk about hudud law. Today, a lot of them are corrupted. A lot of them abuse their power. A lot of them are still very greedy. Can we trust these people with this power of the God? And that's what I'm asking myself. And you said it's not going to affect me. It's going to affect me when I'm going to live under this jurisdiction.
Yeah.
So, by making Islam a taboo, but at the same time introducing Islam into our way of life, that is a contradiction. As a lawyer, as a politician, I call it out. But when I say it, it's just at the mention of Islam, it can be called for questioning because it's 3R. It's wrong. Because I am saying it out of concern. I'm saying it out of worry, out of anxiety. I want to know more. But today, we are not in that sort of openness. So that's why this podcast, we need to create more conversation, because Malaysia is a beautiful country. You say it, Indian civilization, Chinese civilization, Arab, Islamic civilization, Western civilization, and the Malay rumpun bangsa, we are all here. But today, we are trying to negate all this. We close the English schools, but we allow international school teaching in English for selected Malays, selected Indians, selected Chinese who are rich, elitists. So we are creating elitists, and then there are many things wrong which we need to open up. What's the point of talking so much about nationalism when actually we are actually trapping our own Malays and Chinese and Indians? I am from the New Village. If I don't go to the English school, I will never be able to pick up on the syllabus of because of the language barrier. My elder brothers, sisters, they fail because they cannot pick up. But my parents are smart enough to send me. That time, they were saying, Chinese must send to Chinese school because of, if no, you are selling out Chinese. But for practical purposes, when I was a state representative the first time, we have a dialogue, MCA elected representative with Anwar Ibrahim then. He was a Minister of Education. I said, I want to send my children to the Kebangsaan school. But you all don't consciously do away with the POI. We used to have people's own language where we have English, we have Chinese teachers, we have Indian teachers to teach our mother tongue. But during that time, they have Islamic classes. But at one time, they no longer engage contract teachers to teach us. So I want my children to have the Malay school system, but without forgetting that they are Chinese. There are good values in Chinese which you have to learn. So I said that, and then there were two ministers who come and confront me later. This is not what is wanted by Dong Jiaozhong. Dong Jiaozhong don't want this Chinese to be taught because they want to make sure the Chinese school prevail. But Chinese school is Chinese school. English school is more scientific, more educational centric. Why are all the Dong Jiaozhong, the Dong Jiaozhong leaders, they send their children to the English schools. But here they are telling people to go to Chinese schools. So why is the Chinese school suddenly they suddenly propel. The Chinese school used to be closing down because people are sending the children to the English school. When the English school is closed now, the Chinese all go to Chinese school. That's where the divide is.
Oh,
we could have cultivated Malay schools without sacrificing the English schools, colonial school, which has a good tradition. Those days, our English teachers were sent to London to learn. They come back. We have a good tradition of and correct education. But this generation is the last of the Mohicans. I am the last batch of the English school.
Yeah.
I can see the difference after the transformation, after the transitional change. We become more Melayu, more China, more India. Huh?
Which you are against.
Because I have the benefit of both worlds. And I can see the difference.
I completely agree with you. I think that I 100% agree with you. I think what you're saying is exactly right.
I went to school without knowing a word of Malay, without knowing a word of English. And I don't go to Tadika. Because we are poor, we cannot afford Tadika. I went in the first year, I make friends with Malays. I don't see them as Malays. Because I'm so happy to have friends. Because in my village, my mother don't allow us to go out because you get bullied because you are poor. When you're poor, you go out, you get picked upon. So I got friends. And then after May 13, that was in 1969, I see the difference. My cikgu agama pinch me and call me Cinakui. You know, I see the racism there. So I said, I asked a lot of questions. Why is this happening? Why are we fighting with each other?
Since you lived in that period, but of course you were young, you were 7 years old then when May 13 happened, right? Now, when you look at politics today, are we on track to, I wouldn't say the same thing, but are we going to very racial-based narrative right now?
I said we are supposed to transform. Every one of us voted for Ubah. I also deep in my heart, I said, I want Ubah. I hope that something is good.
As an MCA man.
No, in fact, when I was an MCA, I was a state assemblyman, I told my fellow lawyers, join PKR. I said, join PKR. I said, PKR, there is some hope. You know, there is hope because that time it was so, political Islam was so strong. But I am in the system. It does not mean that I say out. I still say, speak out. I still stand out. But it's just that we don't go out and shout, you know, the way Ngako Ming is doing, you know, in the UEC issue. So, I'm coming back. So, what was your question then?
No, my thing is that because my fear is that in the upcoming general elections, we are going to see very race-based, religion-based campaigning. That's what we're going to see. That's my prediction from what I see. Even recently, the case, you can see the past leader again using race again.
I tell you, the Indians have their uprising, Hindraf. The Chinese have the Chinese tsunami. It's a matter of time the Malay tsunami comes in. And because Malays are lost, they are frustrated with the division. They want a reunited Malay. I think that is a calling. I've seen very liberal Malays, progressive Malays, talking about their willingness to vote for PAS. It's not about PAS. He said, why not give them a chance? It's just like the Chinese says, why not give DAP a chance? Because somehow deep down inside us, a lot of us are brought in a racially identified ecosystem. So, coming back, the politicians knows that. With the Undi 18, I was the deputy minister of youth. I engaged a lot of the youth. Many of them are politically not literate. I wouldn't call them illiterate. They are not literate. So when it comes to vote, who do you vote for? I vote for PAS. Why? Sebab ada agama. Because they are brought up to have a religious calling. So everybody knows today who captures the Malay votes is going to be the dominant. You just need to be dominant. Once you're dominant, then all the other small mosquito party, even the big party like DAP will come running after you because they want to be in the corridor of powers. DAP is the biggest party. They will still run to you. If today PAS can form the government, DAP will come knocking at their door. Then
You
they
think
will
so?
have their yes. They have worked before. They have sing the song.
Jadi PKR.
The moon represents my heart. They will have a ready narrative to transform. So I say don't trust politicians. I said this when I was in one of the dialogue. I think Professor Jagatesan was there or something. I said don't trust politicians. People laugh at me. I'm a politician telling people. I said don't trust politicians because politicians are dictated by the political ecosystem. So we need to correct the political ecosystem. And to correct the political ecosystem, we need to get people to look beyond race, religion, and beyond identity politics. I have friends who mati will defend Lim Guan Eng. Oh, Lim Guan Eng is not corrupted. I say, you are not in the position to say that. Because they have investigation, they are not going to waste time to charge him without evidence, So, but they are lawyers. So, this is about identity. But there's two things. People are very emotionally attached.
Yeah.
One is politics and one is religion. Where rationalism don't work. If you are rational, that's why over dinner you don't talk about politics. Because people get emotional. You don't talk about religion, people get emotional.
So let's bring it to a close on this. What would you recommend? What is your hope for Malaysia as we move forward to the next general elections in terms of our racial harmony and the way our communities interact with one another?
I want to give an opportunity to new politicians, people who are more honest, people who call a spade, people who admit that if their race makes something wrong or is bullying, they admit that is wrong. Or at least don't say it. I prefer Samsu over Akmal.
Okay.
I would prefer people like Rafizi, Khairi and all that. I don't know Nurul Izzah. She's just a princess, So, at least we need to give. But people are talking about give Nurul Izzah, he's the future prime minister. But what has she proven? I prefer a more honest person than Hannah Yeoh. Hannah Yeoh, today everybody saying she's transforming, she's going there to transform. But she has been a speaker. What's the transformation that she brought? What's the reformation? She has been a deputy minister in the women ministry.
Yeah.
And I Google, I only get a picture of, she says, I'm not going to drink with more sugar. So somebody asked me to Google and I Google. So she is not qualified to be called, but she's branded herself to be a transformation man. A renaissance woman.
Woman, yeah.
So I think we must call a spade a spade. We must be brave enough, show your value, and then not using your mouth, show your actions and your heart. She talks so much about Prime Minister cannot be Finance Minister. But when the Prime Minister becomes Finance Minister, she didn't utter a word. So that is already a failure.
Man. Sir, I would love to have you back again and again and again. You are so amazing. I had a feeling this would happen after, but yeah. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much.
Sorry if I say anything
No.
wrong.
I think everybody
I want to
enjoyed it.
apologize to the audience as well. I say what I say. If I am wrong, I can withdraw and I admit that I'm wrong. But don't ask me to withdraw something which I say and then you cannot rebut.
Yeah.
Just rebut me. I say I'm wrong. But I'm just saying it in law. We say bona fide, in good faith.
Yeah.
Because I want goodness in the Malay, Chinese, and Indian, Sarawakian, Sabahan. I want real solutions to real problems. I don't want people to create problems. I don't want political rhetorics. I don't want ngakoming. I want more honest people. I think ngakoming proved me wrong by doing something on the 999 list. Prepare a paper, engage the state government. Because in the past, he said they are not federal government. When they're state government, not state government, they said they are not state government. When they are state government, they said they are not federal government. Local government election also. They say, we cannot do it because we are not the federal government. Now, you are not only the state government, you are also the federal government, and you are the minister in charge of the local government. So start with a paper. I did ask in the Senate, where is your paper? But he didn't come to answer me. he sent his deputy. So I let it go lah. I'm not a radical, but I would like to call a spade a spade.
Yeah, I would love to have you back. Please come back again and again. You are really, and so we'll be sharing his links in the description. Do throw your support to him and we'll be sharing links to his articles as well. Fantastic read. Please have a look at it. So thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so
for
much.
having me.
So to you guys, please share your comments, share your thoughts. Much to discuss in this episode. We'd like to hear what you think as well. We'll see you soon. We have many amazing politicians coming up in the future episodes. So we'll see you soon, guys. Take care. Bye.